We've talked a lot about what Strapi is and the role that a headless CMS plays in the Jamstack. Now it's time to go ahead and create our Strapi project. So let's not waste any more time, let's jump right in. Here we are at our terminal, or the command line if you're on Windows. Now I specified this in the course requirements, but be sure that if you run the command node-v that you are getting a version 12 of Node. That is a requirement of this course. Support for Node 14 has not come out for Strapi yet, and Node 13 is an unstable version of Node. So we want to make sure we're on a version 12 of Node, okay? Once you've made sure you're running the correct version of Node, that will automatically come with the npx command. Okay, so you should be able to run npx, and that is just going to allow us to run the Strapi boilerplate startup without having to explicitly install the boilerplate setup library. So we will npx the create Strapi app, create-strapi-app, and then the name of what we want to name our project. Before we do that, actually make sure you're in a directory that you want to start your project in. So I'm actually going to change into my desktop, and I'll do it right here. But let's first also create a directory to hold our entire project. So this will be the root of our entire project that we'll be working with for both the front end and the back end. So let's mkdir or make a folder or a directory titled var_x, because that is going to be the fake brand of the clothing store we're creating. All right, and actually before we create our project with Strapi, we have to make sure that we have MongoDB running in the background. Okay, so if you go ahead and go to strapi.io and then go to the documentation, you'll see the section on the left, guides, and under guides, databases. Go ahead and click on that, and that'll bring you to this page. And if you scroll down here, you'll see the MongoDB installation. Okay, so here follow the instructions for Windows, Mac, or Linux to get MongoDB running in the background before you move on to creating the Strapi app. Okay, so since I'm on Mac, I'm gonna go ahead and copy these commands over into my terminal. Okay, so now that first command's done, let's go ahead and now install MongoDB through Homebrew. We'll wait for that to finish. And it looks like I actually had already had Mongo installed, so I'll just go ahead and upgrade it. Let's go ahead. All right, and when that's finished, go ahead and now run the command to actually get Mongo running in the background. Okay, and I actually just ran into this problem where it said the MongoD command not found. So if you run into this, that means that your terminal or command line can't find the Mongo installation. So you need to add Mongo to the path variables. Okay, so that's what you need to look up. For Windows, it's pretty straightforward. For Mac, it's also pretty straightforward. What we need to do is edit our bash profile. But I'm actually on the newest version of Mac OS, so my terminal is using Zeesh, not bash. So I actually need to edit my Zeesh profile. So I'm going to nano ~/.zeeshrc. But if you are on bash, and you should know because up here at the top, see mine says Zeesh, yours will say bash. If you're on bash, do nano bash profile. Like that. And this will be the file that you'll want, but I will go into the zeeshrc, and they should be exactly the same. So what I'll do here is add export path equals quote usr/local/usr/local/opt/mongodb-community at 4.0/bin:\path. End quote. All right, now let's go ahead and save that. And we might need to restart our command line for that to take effect. So I'm going to close out of that window, open up a new one here. I'll make this nice and large so you guys can see it. And I'm going to cd to my desktop. I'm going to cd into the var_x folder that we created. And now I'm going to test this. Should be able to run MongoD. Cool. And we see that it does work now. So let's go ahead and copy this command. The last command we needed to get MongoD running. Let's go ahead and run this. And this will actually just hang and be a running process of MongoDB. So let's open up a new tab or a new window of our terminal and make sure we change back into our var_x directory. And now we'll be ready to initialize our Strapi project. So let's go ahead and start by doing this with npx create Strapi app. And then let's call this folder, the project, our backend. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we will initialize our project like this. And now let's do custom manual settings. We'll go down to a Mongo database. And let's name this database Strapi. And then after this, we should be able to use defaults for everything. All right, and once that finishes, you should see that our application was successfully created at our specified folder, and the dependencies were installed successfully. So if you see this, then our project was started successfully, and now what we need to do is go ahead and actually set up the Mongo database that we'll really be using instead of just this local instance. Okay, so we'll switch back over to the web browser. And let's go ahead and search for MongoDB Cloud Atlas, or just MongoDB Atlas, and you should see MongoDB Atlas as the first result. Okay, so pull up this page, and we're going to head and start for free. Let's go ahead and fill out the information. We are learning MongoDB, my work email, and then get our name and a password. Let's go ahead and sign up for free. All right, and it looks like I've already made an account with this email. So let's go ahead and make your account, and I'll sign in, and we'll go to the account dashboard. All right, once you're logged in and you're at your account dashboard, let's go ahead and add a new project to our account on Mongo Cloud Atlas. So we'll press new project, and I'm going to name this var-x, and we'll go ahead and press next. And here you could add any other members to the project, but we'll just keep ourselves for now. Go ahead and create project. Now we're going to build a cluster, and let's go ahead and create a free cluster. We're going to keep AWS as our cloud provider. Select whichever region is appropriate for you. Then cluster tier, we're going to leave it at the M0, and cluster name, we can go ahead and leave that at cluster 0 as well. Okay, and if you're curious, all of these settings are coming straight from this Mongo installation page still. Just past this first part for the install on Atlas. These are the exact instructions that we're following along. So we're going to go ahead and now press the green button to create our cluster. And while this is working on creating our cluster, let's go ahead over to the left-hand side and click on Database Access. And we're going to add a new database user. Here, go ahead and create a username for your user. I'm going to go ahead and name Zachary and give it a password. and I'll go ahead and show the password. Let's see, I'll do Udemy e-commerce 77. Or you could go ahead and auto-generate a secure password. Let's just go ahead and do that actually. So go ahead and now add this user. Oh, but I don't think I copied the password, so make sure you copy the password. So go back to edit, edit password, auto-generate secure. I'm going to copy that, update the user. Okay. And now let's go over to the network access tab. Okay, we need to make it so that our IP address from wherever you're working can connect to this MongoDB database that Cloud Atlas is going to be hosting for us. So let's go ahead and add an IP address. And you can either add your current IP address or you can go ahead and allow access from anywhere. And this wouldn't be recommended for your production settings, of course, but for right now, your IP address may actually change sometimes depending on how your Wi-Fi is configured. So to avoid connection issues, let's go ahead and allow access from anywhere for now, and then confirm. All right, we're almost finished getting this ready and configured for our Strapi project. So let's go ahead and move over to the Clusters tab. And here, let's click on Connect. We are going to connect our application, and let's change our node version to 2.2.12 or later. And that is just, again, from the documentation instructions. This gives us a URL that we can use to connect directly to this MongoDB database. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up the project directory that we just created with our Strapi project. I'm going to open this in a code editor. So I'm going to open up that whole folder in Atom, and we're going to go and make a change to one of the configuration files. Let's go ahead and open up the backend folder here. And then inside of this project directory, let's go ahead and open up the config folder and then database.js. Let's go ahead and we're going to remove everything inside of the settings object here. So go ahead and get rid of all of that, and we're simply going to include URI and then a colon and then env and then in quotes database URL or URI actually. Then we can go ahead and get rid of this extra option in here, and then let's set this SSL to just true. Okay, let's go ahead and save that. And now in our backend folder, so just in the root backend folder, create a new file called .env. Okay, and this is going to be our environment variables, or essentially a file to hold information like our database connection URI that we don't want to make public. So this will be a hidden folder that won't be pushed into any repositories. And actually I see they have a .env example right there. So let's actually just go ahead and use that. So inside of here, we're actually going to flip to the browser and copy this string that we got from Cloud Atlas. So now we need to define the database URI and set it equal to this string. Okay, and now be sure before you save this, we need to change two things, DB name and password. So DB name, remember we named our database Strapi, and the password is going to be the password of the user that you set. So I'm actually going to have to go and grab that again since I had it on my clipboard. I'll regenerate the password and update the user, and now replace that password with the actual password. Make sure you replace DB name with the actual database name of Strapi, and now this is good to go. So go ahead and save that. You can close out of that. Make sure you have database.js saved correctly. We'll close out of that. And now if we open up our project once again, we can close out of the MongoDB local instance that we had running because we just needed that to initialize our project. But now our project is connected to a MongoDB instance running on Cloud Atlas. So this will store our entire database. If we go into collections here, we won't see anything yet, but this will be where all of our data from Strapi ends up getting stored to. Okay, so we just went ahead and connected Strapi to Mongo Cloud Atlas. So we can test this out by going back into our var_x project directory, and be sure we cd into the backend folder. And now we can run npm run develop, and we should see our Strapi server start up for the first time. Okay, I actually hit this error saying that the server couldn't connect to the Mongo database. And it looks like what we need to do is change the .env.examples to just .env. The .example must have been actually making it just an example. So by changing it to just .env, that makes it an actual env file where it will be found by the Strapi project. So make sure you have .env, not .env.example, and then you can go ahead and run in the backend folder npm run develop, and you should see the Strapi project initialize and load up this page for the admin dashboard. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do here is create our Strapi admin account. So we'll go ahead, fill out the information. And go ahead and let's start. And once you are here, once you see this screen, you are all set. You have a live Strapi project running on your computer connected to a Mongo database in the cloud, which means we can really start diving into things in the next one.